protesters interrupted King Charles' speech while the senator launched an attack. King Charles was forced to sit down while the protester shouted, "You are not my king, and give us back our land." Hello kings and queens, please make sure to subscribe and click the notifications bell icon so you don't miss any premium updates about the British royal family. Moments after King Charles delivered his speech at Parliament House, a protester launched a verbal attack on the king, shouting, "You are not my king, and this is not your land." Aboriginal Australian Senator Lydia Thorpe, known for her stunts, moved down the aisle to provoke her anger, walking as close as possible to the stage, where King and Queen Camilla sat alongside Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and other officials. She screamed, "You have committed genocide against our people. Give us back our land. Give us what you stole from us, our bones, our skulls, our children, our people. Treaty, we want a treaty with this country." Senator Lydia Thorpe waited until the end of Charles' historic speech in the Australian Parliament building, in the country's capital, Canberra, to attack him verbally and claim that genocide had been committed against the indigenous people of the Commonwealth country. Charles and Camilla faced limited protests during their tour of Australia, which began on Monday, from supporters of First Nations resistance to colonialism, who waved a banner with the word decolonization on it on a number of occasions. As Mrs Thorpe was gently led from the hall, she shouted, "You are not our king, you are not sovereign. You have committed genocide against our people. Give us back our land. Give us what you stole from us, our children, our people. You destroyed our land." She continued, "Give us a treaty, we want a treaty with this country. This is not your land, this is not your land, you are not mine, you are not our king." The outburst of an elected representative would likely have been seen as an embarrassment to Charles as he made his first visit to Australia as king. Ms Thorpe sits as an independent in the upper house of the Australian Parliament, and ahead of the royal visit she issued a statement saying through treaty negotiations, "This is not your land, this is not your land, you are not mine, you are not ours." It took about a minute before security escorted Ms Thorpe from the room. When she was forced back into the hallway, the senator, wearing a long opossum skin coat, shouted, "Fuck the colonies." Those gathered at the parliamentary reception remained silent during the outcry, while the king turned to speak to Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and the Queen calmly turned to Jodie Hayden, the Prime Minister's partner. Lady Thorpe was one of the invited guests gathered inside the Great Hall prior to His Majesty's arrival when her opposition to their visit was first made clear. She turned her back as a large video screen showed the king standing at attention outside during the official welcome while a band played the national anthem. The king and queen only landed in the capital this morning and will return to Sydney this evening, but it is understood he is not bothered by the lone protester and will not let that overshadow what has been a wonderful day. Ms Thorpe's protest came just seconds after the king concluded his speech, which covered his time as a school student in Australia, the COVID pandemic and Australia's vulnerability to climate change. In his speech, King Charles spoke affectionately of his relationship with Australia, a country he first visited as a teenager, saying he arrived a teenager and left more drilled after his experience studying in the outback. He also highlighted the debt he owed to Australia's indigenous people. "In my many visits to Australia, I have witnessed the courage and hope that have guided the nation's long and sometimes difficult journey towards reconciliation," Charles said. "Throughout my life, First Nations peoples in Australia have given me the great honour of sharing, so generously, their stories and cultures. I can only say how much my own experience has been shaped and reinforced by this conventional wisdom." Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has a long-term goal of holding a referendum on severing ties with the British monarchy and turning his country into a republic. But those plans were put on hold after Australians overwhelmingly rejected a plan to give greater political rights to Indigenous people in a referendum last year.